Hey guys, Steve Welch again, Bmw Toyota in Nashville. You guys know I love bringing you information and a little bit of help when it comes to buying cars. So I just recently saw something that I think is going to help you guys out. So here's kind of the premise on how I wanted to bring this to you guys. So there's a lot of people that will basically they'll come in and they'll say, well, I want a Camry, or I want a Highlander, or I want whatever, and they'll be like, well, the Corolla, it's more expensive than the Sentra. It is. Or the Camry, well, the Altima is more, or it's cheaper than the Camry. It is. But there's an old term that I've heard a lot of times that says the cheap will be expensive. And this is kind of how I'm going to show you guys how this is true. So if you buy this car that is worth, let's just call it priced at $2,000 and $3,000 less than, a Camry for getting the Altima, or if you find a Accord that's $2,000 or $3,000 cheaper than a Camry. Now, keep in mind, equipment matters. So it could be different equipment. It could be, one car is the highest trim level, one car is the lowest trim level, and there's $8,000 between two cars. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about similarly equipped cars of the same type, so basically meaning within the same class and with similar, equipment like I was just talking about. So similar miles, similar things like that. So if you can break everything down into what's similar, you can actually help yourself to understand why buying a more expensive car, which Toyota is never going to be the cheapest car, ever. I don't care who you're talking about, it's never going to be the cheapest car out there, new, used, whatever. It will not be. But there's a reason for it, and I'm going to get into that. But if you are somebody that shops only on price, you might be costing yourself money. And I know that it sounds crazy to think about that a cheaper car could be more expensive, but first off, when you talk about maintenance, cost of ownership, things like that, I'm not even getting into that. I'm going to go solely off of what I've got right here, and I'm going to go through these charts, and it's all based off of resale value. All right? So here's the thing. If you own a car for 3 years, you put the exact same miles on one car as another car, and one car lost 20% of its value, and one car lost 40% of its value. If the car that lost 40% of its value was $2,000 cheaper to start, but 3 years from then it's $4,000 cheaper to sell, you lost $2,000. And I hope that you guys can keep up with me on that, because I know I talk fast. I've gotten those comments. I apologize for talking fast. It's the pilot in me that it's always wanting to talk a little bit quicker, but just bear with me. But this is going to show you some things. So now there's an article that I saw on iSeeCars.com. It's a really great resource for information on vehicles. All right, and they do a lot of research, and they do a lot of the reporting. And I'll show you some cars here, so you don't have to just continually watch me. But by the way, our inventory is getting a whole lot better, as you can tell, after the sickness came out. So, all right, so what I'm going to show you is I'm showing you these charts here, right? And I'm going to kind of go over these, all right? Now, the reason you see me, I've wrote this down here. The article was by Julie Blackley, is the article. So, and I couldn't find an exact date on it, but if you look at it, it shows up here kind of JPG. You see it says 2019. So this is probably from about a year ago, which anytime that you're talking about, surveys or information like this, it does tend to run a year behind. So this is, as far as I can tell, this is the latest version of this information. All right. So that being said, top 10 vehicles with the lowest depreciation. All right. So we're going to start with number 10 and go down to number 1. So, all right. So your number 10. All right. Your Subaru Brz WRX. That one will lose 40% of its value in the first 5 years. Keep in mind, we're talking 5 years, average miles. I mean, obviously, if you have 200,000 miles, you go in 5 years, it's lost more value than 100. Realize all of that, but all things being the same, right? When it comes to, wrecks, you lose a little bit of value. Understand all of that. This is just talking in general, a car with average miles, no wreck history, things like that, all right? So number 9, Nissan Frontier. Be quite honest, that one kind of surprised me some, just because Nissans don't tend to be the best, but when it comes to holding their value, but their trucks do better. So number 8, Nissan Gtr. All right. First off, the Frontier held 39.5% of its value. The GTR is 39.4% of its value. All right. Number 7 is your Honda Ridgeline. All right. So your Honda Ridgeline held 38.1% of its value. All right. And I'm going to kind of come back over here so you guys can watch this with me. Number 6, your Porsche 911, right? 37.2. Then your 5th, Toyota 4Runner, 36.5. Your 4th is your Toyota Tundra, 35.9%, held over 5 years. 3 is your Tacoma, 32.0%, and sorry, that's depreciated, 32.0% over 5 years. Jeep Wrangler, 31.5, and technically I would throw these two together, but the Wrangler Unlimited, it's built a little different, but that one's lost, it's got 30% depreciation. So it's lost 70% of it, or it's maintained 70% of its value over the first 5 years. So I know I started talking a little bit different on there. So Impreza, it's depreciated 40%, then 39, then 39.4. You can see all those. All right. So those are lowest depreciation. So what does that mean? That means that if you buy a Tacoma that, and over the first 5 years, you've still got almost 70% of the value left after the first 5 years. So, I mean, realistically, so look at the difference between the Frontier and the Tacoma. Well, that's, 7%. All right, well, 7% of, the difference in the two. So, all right, so say that your Nissan was cheaper to start with, which it is, when you get to the end, I mean, which ones kept you more money in your pocket? That's kind of where I'm going with this, all right? So now let's go to the highest depreciation. So you're going to see the 5-year depreciation on these, and I'm going to go over these with you. So your highest depreciation vehicle, this one's going to start with number 10. So I'm going to go from number 10 to number 1 again. So the highest one will be the last one I say here. So number 10 is 68.1%, your Chevy Volt. All right. Number 9 is the Jaguar XJL, 68.9%. And that's, like I said, your 5-year depreciation. So it's gone down in value 68.9% in the first 5 years, all things being the same, like I said. And this is based off of iSeeCars.com, their survey. So this is their chart, and I'm just reading their chart here. So definitely go to iSeeCars.com, definitely get some more information from them. All right. So now your number 8 car is your Bmw 6 Series. Goes down 69% in the first 5 years. All right. Number 7 is your Ford Fusion Energy, and I didn't look that up, but I'm guessing that's probably the hybrid. But that is 69.1%. Number 6, your Acura RLX, 69.2% depreciation over 5 years. Your BMW is your BMW 5 Series, 69.2%. BMW i3, 70.9%. Your Nissan Leaf, 70%. That one's number 3. Number 2 is your BMW 7 Series with 71.3%. And your Maserati Quattroporte, however you want to say that, is your number 1 with 72.2% depreciation over 5 years. It has less than 30% of the original value. And I can tell you right there, the Maserati is not a cheap car. So they definitely, it goes down in value. Every car goes down in value. I don't care if it's a Toyota, if it's a Honda, if it's a Chevy. They all go down in value. It's just which ones go down the least in the amount of time that you own the car means that you have more value at the end to get back when you sell it, trade it, whatever you want to do. All right. So now, what's your lowest depreciating SUVs? Right? So your lowest depreciation, so your 5-year depreciation on your SUVs, the lowest, we're going to start with the Subaru Outback. All right? Subaru Outback depreciates 50.1%, so about half in 5 years. So I would go to say that in 10 years it's down to zero. Not quite, but you kind of it doesn't go down like that. Because I've had people assume that that's what that means, but it just lost 50% in its first 5 years. All right. So the Land Cruiser, 48.6% depreciation in the first 5 years. The Mercedes-Benz G-Class, and it says AMG. I don't know what the difference between AMG and the other G-Class is, but it's got two G-Classes. That's number 8, number 7. The AMG is 45.9%, and the regular G-Class is 45.2%. Leave it in the comments if you know what the difference is. I could probably look it up, but it wasn't worth doing that. So number 6 is your Honda CR-V. All right, Honda's been a great vehicle for a long time. Their CR-Vs do hold their value pretty good. So they are 44.9%. That's number 6 on this list. Number 5 is your Toyota Highlander. And this is where you run through some Toyotas here. So you get to the top 5. 44.6% is your 5-year depreciation on your Highlander. 44.6% also on your RAV4. And your 4Runner is 36.5% on your 5-year depreciation on your 4Runner. Top 2 again are your Jeep Wrangler and your Wrangler Unlimited, 31.5 and 30% respectively. All right, and I'll show you this list here too if you guys want to see this list. Like I said, I printed these up so that I could show you guys the list. Hopefully this is helping you guys out. So now we're going to see what the opposite is, the highest depreciating SUVs. We're going to start with number 10 here, the Infiniti QX80. That's your big Infiniti, all right? 63.4%. All right, that's tied with the BMW X1, 63.4%, that it's going to depreciate in 5 years. So you have less than 40% of your original value left after 5 years. Number 8, your Audi Q7, 63.5%. Number 7, your Cadillac Escalade. That gets you to 63.6%. All right, and you can see these are all really close, which I noticed that as well. So getting up to your BMW X6, which is 63.8, your Infiniti QX60, that's a little bit smaller, I believe. It'd still be the SUV, but it's a little smaller than the 80. 63.9%. Your GMC Yukon XL, 64.4%. Your BMW X3, 65.1%. Your Lincoln Navigator L is 65.7%, and your Lincoln MKT is 66.1%. That's your highest depreciating SUV. And what I did notice on that, most of those are luxury SUVs, if you guys didn't know that. But it's just kind of those are the vehicles that are $70,000, $80,000, $90,000. I mean, these things can be up there, and they're gonna lose 60 to almost 70% of their value in the first 5 years. So if you shell out, let's just call it $50,000. I mean, $60,000. You've just lost, well over half of that money in the first 5 years. All right. So now we're gonna go to the best for your depreciation on pickup trucks. All right, so this one's not going to be a shocker. You're going to find out who's number 1. It's going to be a shock to you. All right, number 9 for your 5-year depreciation on your pickup trucks, your Ford F-150, 46.5%. None of these depreciate like cars. None of them depreciate like even SUVs, because your pickups tend to hold your value better than anything else. I don't care what brand it is, they tend to hold it. So just remember that when we're talking here, guys. Number 8 is your Nissan Titan, 45.9%, and that's depreciation over 5 years from iccars.com, by the way. So your Ram pickup is 45.2%. Your GMC Sierra is your number 6, and that is 43%. And then right here it shows your average for pickups is 42.7%. So we're right here in the middle. Your number 5 is your sister to your Sierra, and I'll show you the list here. Your sister to your Sierra, your Chevy Silverado 1500, 42%. So your GMC is a little bit further down the list than the Silverado is there. Your Nissan Frontier, your light truck for your Nissans, at 39.5%. And now your Honda Ridgeline's at 38.1%. Your Tundra is at 35.9%, and your Tacoma is at 32%. So that is your average 5-year depreciation for your trucks. All right, now these are sports cars. Now Toyota doesn't do a whole lot of sports cars. They have your Supra that's out now. but it just came back out last year, so I doubt they're going to be on any of these lists anyway. But we're going to look at your sports cars. So you can take a look here. Number 10, your Mazda MX-5 Miata, 47.2. Your Nissan 370Z, 46.7. Your Chevy Camaro at 45.8. That's your 5-year depreciation, like I said, from iccars.com. All right. Your Subaru Brz is 45%. Your Dodge Challenger, 44.4. That's along with the Ford Mustang. Your Porsche 911 convertible, 42.0. Your Subaru Impreza WRX is 40, and your Nissan Gtr is 39.4, and the best one on this list is your Porsche 911 Coupe, which is at 37.2 5-year depreciation. All right, so now which ones are highest? Well, we've already talked about number one, but we'll kind of look at this at as well here. So your Audi S5 Coupe is at 59.5%. Porsche Panorama, that's at 59.9. Your Audi S5 convertible at 61.3. So you can see a convertible, it depreciates just more than what the coupe does. Mercedes-Benz SL Class at 61.5. Your Maserati Gran Turismo at 62.2. Mercedes-Benz S-Class AMG at 63.3. Once again, if you guys know the difference between those, go ahead and put them up there so I don't have to look it up, and put it in the comment for me. Bmw M5 at 64.6. Maserati, whatever the heck that is, 65.7. Your BMW M6 at 67.4, and your Maserati Quattroporte at 72.2%. So now we're going to get into something that is a little bit more near and dear to what I do. This is your 5-year depreciation on your hybrid vehicles. There's obviously less of those around, so this is a little bit shorter of a list in some ways, but has one extra on here. So there's less out there, but it's giving you pretty much all of the major competition. So number one is your Lincoln MKZ hybrid at 67.2, your Ford Fusion hybrid at 64.3, your Hyundai Sonata hybrid at 61.7, Optima hybrid at 61, your Lexus ES 300H. Keep in mind, Lexus and Toyota obviously are very closely linked. With your ES 300H, that's your small one, that's at 59.4. That's 5-year depreciation, like I said, guys. Your Lexus RX 450, that's at 59.1. The Camry hybrid at 56.3. That's number 4 on the list. The Honda Accord hybrid at 56.1. Your Prius, which is the granddaddy, that's been around for the longest time, that is 53.5. And I know you Accord people are going to try to argue with me on that, but we can argue. But yeah, Toyota's been around longer. Oddly enough, most people don't realize that Porsche had the original hybrid, which is actually in the late 1800s. So we're all wrong on who came first. So, but your Prius C is 49.7%. Oddly enough, that's the smallest Prius, and they discontinued it, but it's still holding its value better than any of the other hybrids. So figure out that how you want to. But now here's something that I really want to talk to you guys about, because I'm going to show you a couple little things here on the next one. So we're talking about electric vehicles. Now, it doesn't really fall into what I do, but this will give you some insight on buying an electric car. So a lot of people want to buy those. Let's take a look here. Your Nissan Leaf, 71% 5-year depreciation. BMW i3, almost 71%, 70.9. Ford Fusion Energy, so there's my answer on the Ford Fusion right there. That one's it's got to be an electric vehicle at 69.1. Chevy Volt at 68.1, and the Tesla Model S is the best on this list at 61.5%. So in 5 years, you spend, I mean, what is that? $70,000 car, $60,000 car, whatever it is, you're going to lose 61.5% of that vehicle. All right, now this is really what I want to show you guys, that's going to kind of sum us all up here. All right, so when we start talking about the lowest and highest depreciating vehicles, all right, so we'll just kind of back into this. All right, so the number 10, we're going to go from 10 to 1 again here on the highest depreciating. So Buick at 60.1% is number 10 on the highest depreciation. Infiniti, which is Nissan's luxury brand, 62%. Mercedes-Benz at 62.1. Audi at 62.1. Jaguar at 62.2. We're noticing a trend here with some of these luxury vehicles. Volvo at 62.7. Lincoln at 64.1. Cadillac at 64.9. BMW at 65, and Maserati at 66.4%. Those are your highest depreciating vehicles. Let's go to the other side, your lowest depreciating vehicles. Now this one would shock me a little bit, but they don't have a lot out there, so I can kind of understand it. Mitsubishi at 51.8 is number 10 on that list. Dodge is 51.4. GMC is 48.8, which is realistically, it's like Chevrolet's luxury truck version. Chevrolet is 48.4, just behind there. And that behind meaning ahead, by the way. And then you have Subaru at 47.5, Porsche at 47.2, Honda at 46.6, Jeep at 46.3, which is mainly off of the Wrangler, of course. Because you saw that there were no other Jeeps on that list. It was just the Wrangler. For the highest ones, of course. And then you have Ram, which is Dodge Ram, of course. That's the other Chrysler brand on there at 45.2. And I think that that's a lot based off of their diesels, but we can all argue over that as well. And number one on this list is Toyota at 42.3% average 5-year depreciation. All right. So I've gone through this whole list here, and I'm going to start walking back up here, but what the takeaway for me from this IC Cars survey is that it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm gonna say this in a different way. All right, you can pay when you pay for a car up front. If you don't pay attention to what it's going to be worth in 3 and 5 years from now, then you're right. You'll look at it and go, this one's $1,000 cheaper. I'm going to buy the cheaper version. I'm going to buy a cheaper car. And if that's what you do, then you're costing yourself money more times than not. So if that's what you guys want to do, just feel free to do that. But definitely look at these, you guys. Look at your depreciation, your highest and your lowest depreciation, and figure out what's going to be the best car for you to buy that's going to not cost you money. Now, when you're talking about reliability comes into play as well. So if you're talking about what's going to be reliable, what's going to cost you less to own, I mean, you're not going to get better than a Toyota. So I proved from this list that your Toyota is going to give you the highest resale, the lowest depreciation, whatever you want to call it, and it's the most reliable. So you guys figure out what you want to do, but I think I've made a case. So Steve Welch with Bmw Toyota in Nashville. Hope you guys have a great fall here as we come up on it, and a great winter. But let me know if you want to come down here. I'd love to help you guys buy a car. So Steve Welch with Bmw Toyota in downtown Nashville. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.